We could do something for that, yeah, definitely, but this would be separate.
Yeah, I had an email from a gentleman already concerned about Berry Street. Yeah, I was like, I put out a no comment.
Good, how are you?
I thought it said Bear.
Just to let you know we're live.
Okay, call the meeting to order, roll call. Councilman Searle, Councilman Sharp, City Manager Mackey, he's here, and I'm here. All right, we're all here, we have a quorum. Next item is public comment on agenda items only. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on either of the two items?
I would like to speak
Okay.
in a positive way.
For the purposes of the secretary here.
Yes, my name is Ed Sumner. I am an observer of government in this city for the last 60 years or so. Been involved in economic development in this room many years. But thinking back and thinking and in support of David Mackey, I think his accomplishments over the time he's been there are pretty special. Between things like the Dawn Theater across the street and finding the money, a lot of money to do that, the Kiefer House restoration, which is going to be done soon, we hope, and what David and the BPU and the city have done with infrastructure to bring the folks, Myers, into town. And then the other positive things are things like, and I think in current terms, there's two major road projects that are just getting completed now that add a lot of fuel to those who are in favor of getting the roads fixed, and which is great. And the last thing I'll say is under David Mackey's tenure, I think, as much as I know of this, that our relationship with maybe our biggest asset, which is Hillsdale College, is very positive, it seems to me. And so having said all that, I support him and hope that his contract gets continued. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
J.J. Hodgshire, president of Hillsdale Hospital. I am also the chair of the BPU Board's Personnel Committee. So I'm here tonight to present to you the recommendation from the Board of Public Utilities regarding the contract extension and or the approved from our Board of Trustees, our BPU board meeting of David's current performance and the percentage that we are recommending to award to him. So as a reminder, we have pillars that we have established, and you were part of that, this committee was, that both the City of Hillsdale and BPU both will evaluate David on. We establish our own metrics, and our metrics are based on infrastructure, we'll say growth. We also have customer service and customer satisfaction, as well as department training and education. I'm pleased to report that in every one of those categories, David has either completed those, or for some that are ongoing, like street repair, and looking at lead line repair, is that it's ongoing, but we've achieved those for this past year. As such, I'm presenting to you tonight our recommendation from the Board of Public Utilities that at our meeting this week, October 8th, the BPU Board unanimously made the following recommendation, which I'm making to you tonight regarding his current employment contract with the city. We ask that you, as a committee, consider recommending to City Council, in addition to whatever percentage salary increase might be awarded to Mr. Mackey, that his contract term be extended through July 5th, 2032. Additionally, after much research and conversation, which is my job, with like jurisdictions, i.e. net revenue, looking at your budget, looking at your total employees, your total spend, your infrastructure, we would recommend increasing his severance from 12 months to 18 months, effective now, immediately, and upon his 10-year anniversary, which does come up next year, July 1st of 25, we would ask that that increase to 24 months. Let's talk about that briefly. When you look at someone's severance, when you look at individuals who are awarded a severance, it is because it is usually awarded when a jurisdiction, a governing body, terminates without cause the individual. We're not talking about David retiring, and we're not talking about him stepping away from his contract himself, or him creating some type of environment where he broke the law. This is if one day the governing body woke up and said, we're tired of it. So this is a protection for the employee. We're seeing this very common. Greg, you know that it exists in our industry. In most industries, a severance does exist. The question is, what does that time stamp look like? And it varies in city managers. We'll tell you that right now. We go from 12 to 18 to max of 24. We feel taking to that aggregate of 18 months is appropriate, and then 24 it is 10 year. Now you're going to say, that number, guys, could be 120 months, right? Because as long as he's doing a good job and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, he's meeting all his benchmarks, he's going to work until he retires. And so this is a protection for the employee that I would advocate for on his behalf, having done the work that David has done. Now, as was brought forward by my esteemed colleague here from the community, who is a businessman of 60 years himself, I too have watched this city. I've been part of this community my entire life. I've been in county government and now in the non-for-profit world, and I'm going to tell you right now, David Mackey is one of the best city managers we have ever had in our city. Why is that? His focus on economic development demonstrates his willingness to go beyond party lines and go beyond the traditional lines of saying, well, I don't get along with that person, and reaching across the aisle to receive grant funding, reaching across the aisle to make sure that he can get any particular earmarks or special funds that may be set aside by either state or federal government. We see that with the expansion of the airport, we see that with TIFA monies, whatever it is, matches that come from MEDC, whatever it is, that he's achieved those, and he's done so very, very valiantly. So when we look at, as a committee, specifically the Personnel Committee of BPU, we look at he's achieved every one of his benchmarks, and therefore we feel that based on his work, his background, and what he has brought to the table for BPU, that we want to, as a BPU board, recommend all of the items that I've just identified, and for all the reasons that I just have said. We have tremendous growth in our community as a result of David's leadership. And when we look at what's happening just out on 99, I tell you what, if that doesn't get you excited, something's wrong with your excitement factor. Because at the end of the day, when we see job creation and stimulating back the economy, it impacts business like his. They buy their insurance, they're coming to use my hospital, they're driving on our streets, buying our gas. You know the rest is history. And so that is critical for us to continue that relationship. It would be critical for us to keep David Mackey here as our city manager. I know he doesn't have any plans of leaving, but this is a protection that we feel he needs. So with that, I'm giving you my recommendation as the personnel chair for the BPU, and you have that in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Barry Hill, you know, I've been here before. And I agree with everything that's being said so far. I'm a town like Ed Sumner, I've been here all my life. Seen a lot of changes, a lot of things go through City Hall. And David Mackey has done monumental things since he's been here. A lot of people don't realize that. Some of the people on that council haven't been here that long to understand that it's been his guidance that we rejuvenated the old power plant, we can power part of this town now. When the grid goes down, it will go down more and more all the time, and we can sell that power back to the grid. We saw that. The South Central Michigan Power, when that thing started dissolving, our friends in Coldwater built this beautiful office complex over there, and we looked at that and said, I don't think we want to be part of that. We didn't get asked if we wanted to be part of that. So he worked on that. There's hundreds of hours of meetings, and yet we still had the power contracts elsewhere. You still had the lights that go on. And then he took the DPU hat along with city manager. And people don't realize that while all that's going on, this place still has to operate, and DPS still has to operate, and life goes on. He has done, people are talking about the roads, and not anybody in this room that was happy with the roads, but he didn't make it a problem. He inherited it. When he got here, that's what he was handed. So he's done a monumental job on trying to get what funding we could get and move it along. Nobody was happy with the way the Ripple Street thing went. We got a city engineer now, somebody to watch that. He saw that. He found that person. So there's a lot that goes on in the background that people don't know about. Meyer, that was a big project. Getting them here, tons of meetings, tons of talking in the background. He does all the spade and shovel work in the background. He doesn't get to cut the ribbon. He does all the work. Somebody else gets to cut the ribbon and take the glory for it. But we need to keep him. He's positive. Again, that's a 24/7 job too. Not many of us have a 24/7 job. When you're in charge of the fire and the police and DPS, you're getting calls, you have to supervise. That's worth something to this community. And he stepped up and handles it well. He's well liked with the member communities around us and the other power agencies. He's a very good asset for our community. So I support DPU's recommendation. I hope you all will too.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Penny Swan. I am a local, also born and raised in Hillsdale. I'm here to speak on City Manager Mackey's review. For well over 10 years, I've been going to city council meetings, committee meetings, and subcommittee meetings. I think I've been to almost every meeting the city has except for maybe 3. So I have a good working knowledge of what happens here. I've seen the results of Mr. Mackey's work. I know it's a small percentage of what I have knowledge of, but I think Mr. Mackey has been a shining beacon for our city. Here are just a few examples. I know Mr. Mackey went above and beyond to work with Fayette Township and their board to push through the 525 agreement and making Meyer possible. This was no small feat, as I know you all are aware. I had been over to Fayette Township to their meetings and spoke a few times. So I have, like I said, a good working knowledge of what transpired. And Mr. Mackey stepped up and did above and beyond to make that happen. I've seen more street work in the last 10 years than I've ever seen in my entire life. Mr. Mackey has stepped up and saved the city many, many thousands of dollars by agreeing to manage the city as well as the BPU, as was mentioned. I know this is no small task to manage both, and it's been seamlessly done as far as the public has seen. As you know, we had horrible windstorms a few years ago and that horrible ice storm a few years ago. While the majority of the city was without power during both those storms, massive amounts of trees went down. The city was up and running fairly fast, given the damage that occurred during those storms. This, to me, makes a huge statement as to Mr. Mackey's leadership. These are just a few examples. We've had many others of Mr. Mackey's leadership and getting things done attitude, at the same time keeping everyone safe, employees, citizens, everybody. Now, on a personal note, as everybody knows, I've run for city council a few times. Mr. Mackey has always made time to talk to me in his busy schedule, making sure I have the information I need to go out and talk to the public. I think that's awesome that Mr. Mackey makes times for the, and it's not just me because I was running for council. I know others that have talked to Dave to get information. That to me speaks volumes for Mr. Mackey. I'm in full support of Mr. Mackey and any recommendations that the BPU made. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's no one else to talk, so I'm going to close the public meeting. And move on to the first item in new business, which is indeed the city manager's annual evaluation. City Manager Mackey, would you like to make any comments on?
Sure. Well, I want to thank all of you for speaking in support of my efforts here in Hillsdale. As you know, I'm going to kind of touch on a couple of points that were made. You know, in regards to the glory, this job is not necessarily about the glory. It's about promoting the community and promoting, not necessarily taking credit, but getting things done to better the community, to improve it for those who live here and those who might come in the future for economic development purposes. We have a really good staff, and that staff that we have is what makes it possible for me to do both the BPU and the city. If we didn't have the staff we have, it would be much more challenging, most definitely. But as you know, managing staff takes a lot of work as well, because there's always issues, whether it's at home, whether it's performance, whether it's those things. And we work pretty hard through training and staff meetings to stay on top of that so things move in the right direction. And, you know, ultimately, the drive is to improve the city. We've done a lot. We've got a lot of things in the hopper. One of the things I mentioned today when I was at MSCPA is we're working on 4 actual subdivisions. 4. It took us over 20 years to just finish a small part of 3 meadows.
Yeah.
And we actually have plans for 4 actual subdivisions, which would be a tremendous, or is a tremendous opportunity for the community, but is just an example of private investment and others see Hillsdale as a place they would like to invest. The college proposing the 158 room hotel and conference center. I mean, if they weren't seeing the fruit of their efforts expanding and exploding along with the city, they probably wouldn't be doing that. And I'm proud that we were able to work out that agreement with them. I think it's a substantial agreement and commitment on both behalf of the city and the college to take Hillsdale as a city to the next level. So that being said, you know, we did discuss the recommendation on Tuesday night. I think the full board was in support of it at the BPU level. Again, I'm okay, and I think the comparables show that where I'm at financially is fine. I'm good with that. They suggested some security measures just to kind of make that a little bit less volatile, which you see in some communities where some groups want to come in with an agenda and want to change leadership for whatever reason. This is kind of that, in my opinion, is that makes everyone take a step back and question really, do we really want to do this? And you know, the fact of the matter is you know, I've been here almost 10 years. I think you know my character. I'm not going to do something that's going to jeopardize my career or put the city in harm's way. That's really my goal, is to keep the city from being sued the best I can, keep level and fair administration of services. So, you know, I don't ever see these things come into fruition, but I think they would be a nice addition just for peace of mind. So.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, what say you? Any comments?
Well, to what JJ was saying about, this package deal, I work for Kellogg and I actually received those myself, and it is you want to keep good people, and it does prevent irrational decisions real quick. So I like the idea to step that up to 24 months. The other thing is I received a phone call from Chris on there yesterday, and pretty much echoing the same comments we heard today, that, excellent leadership, excellent management of people and time and money. I mean, Chris was very, very complimentary of David's work. So.
Councilman Short?
Where do you want me to begin? I remember when we first did the interview, you guys probably weren't on it when we hired first city, before we hired Dave. This first guy in the interview thing said, well, I don't see the Hillsdale streets being that bad and all this stuff. And I was sitting there, next! And then Dave came in, and Dave remembers the first time he met me, it was with Doug Terry. And I think his name Doug Terry, wasn't it? Yep. And I told Dave right there, you got probably a month to get your act together because you don't know what you're walking into. And I said, you need to study what you're working with. And he did that. He studied the BPU, he watched everything, he was quiet. He was like he knew when okay, I've seen this, now I know what this is. And you did what you had to do, you thinned things out, and you cut costs. You've done the street thing. I understand why you guys come up with this, because we all know why. Because we know the political claims, and we want the certain person to run the city, and we don't need this. That can't happen. We're going in the right direction. This is, the increase next year is only 2.5. Sorry, I think it's so scary, I see that. But they're gonna, you earn every penny you get because you're constantly getting called. You get messages from me, and you answer. He does answer. Within 5-10 minutes, I've got an answer from him.
Yeah.
And so that's a city manager you want. With Linda Brown, she's like, oh, I didn't get your message. Okay, that's great city manager. I've served under 3 of them since I've been on council. I was in council first in 2007. So I've been here for quite a while. I've seen all the changes, the DPS, the BPU, people that need to go, the public safety director, things that needed to go. They went. You didn't get rid of Chris Kutowski, but there was a lot of waste going on in here, and you've seen it. And in the past administrations, they were just letting it go. Fortunately, we don't do any investigations in the prior administration on the BPU, or it could got really ugly. But we got it cleaned up, and it's the way it should be. You've got that place working well. Everybody keeps talking to me about, well, what about bringing consumers in there? You don't want consumers in there. We've got a good power company here. You've got a plan in place. I wish you well, because I only got 2 more meetings left. And I've always been an advocate about fixing the streets and the public safety. Those are the 2 most important things. Obviously, the other council meeting last Monday, also they threw out public safety over the streets. No, you can't do that. You need to keep on the goal of the direction you're going. And of course, I will be a citizen, but I won't be a quiet citizen. If I need to come here, I'm gonna look at certain people. When I talk a lot of times, don't look at it forever. He knows, I'm talking to you, Greg, because you're listening, because you know I remember what you said. And I follow it, because Greg and I sometimes, we've gotten into a few little heated ones. But I have more respect for this man, because we've battled it out, but then afterwards, we're fine. And we respect each other. And I respect what you've done. You're the best city manager I've seen here. And it'd be foolish if we would lose you. And I understand why you guys did this, and I think this is a great thing. I support it.
All right, thank you. As for me, I basically have been involved in municipal government since 1974, obviously in my hometown. And we had what they call borough administrators, which is essentially the same job that town was run, the mayor and council were essentially Wall Street executives. So they knew good administrators when they saw them, and they hired. We only had 3 in a period of maybe 50 or 60 years. And they were all first rate. And in my opinion, Mr. Mackey measures up to all of those guys from my hometown. I just basically, I can't know what the dynamics within City Hall are, because I'm not here, but I can see the people he's hired, the city treasurer, the city engineer, and a number of other people. I see that when I moved here in 2000, 24 years ago, we had a lot of power outages back in those days, if you remember, gentlemen, and we don't have as many anymore. So a lot of things have changed for the better. The streets, there hadn't been anything much done with the streets since, what, 1970 maybe, somewhere around there, a long time. And when I ran for office, everyone was saying the only issue people had was the main issue was the streets. And although we haven't gotten turned around yet, it's great improvements. So I think that Mr. Mackey deserves some job security, and I have no objection to this proposal.
Is it possible we could have you guys come to that council meeting that night and speak in his behalf too? Say what you said here? Because you're well respected in this community. Your word has a lot to do with this community. The college, this community is changing. It's aging, it's turning over. But people respect what you guys have to say because you've been here for many years. You understand it. It would be greatly appreciated if you would say what you said tonight in front of the council. Maybe if you will be a little wedgies, a little squeamish because they don't like to hear the truth. But we can call them out on it. That's my opinion. So, gentlemen, I would really appreciate if you could be there.
What's the day of that
And
meeting?
ladies.
And
Looking at you guys.
Penny, you
He
gotta show
wasn't
up.
looking at me.
You gotta be there too, come on. This will be fun. Bruce doesn't wanna go out quietly.
Your comments were impressive.
Thank you.
Yes.
They were heartfelt.
Anyway,
All right,
21st is that meeting.
Do I have a motion?
so, he's got a second.
Okay, moved by Councilman Central, seconded by Councilman Sharp, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Do we need a roll call?
No, but I guess you need to address also the up to 2%. This addresses the recommendation, but.
Because they've already approved your 2%.
Yes, we approved the 2% and you get 2 as well.
Right.
Approve of-
Okay, let's add that to the resolution.
for the,
2%. Yeah.
As it's done every year now. And plus the cost of leveling from last year was, I think, 3.2.
Yeah, that's automatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
All right, now the second item on the agenda is the team rules and expectations workshop scheduled for January. Thank you, gentlemen.
I've seen, sorry.
You're welcome to stay if you're interested in the team rules.
Merry Christmas.
Don't be afraid to come to the council meeting, I'm counting on you guys to be there.
If I'm not out of line, I learned something recently about Myers. And that was that Frederick Meyer came to Hillsdale College and went to a seminar for grocery store owners that was run by Mike Kalavosky and a guy by the name of Taylor, Larry Taylor at Hillsdale College. And he said, I really like that town. He said, let's put a store in there.
Wow.
When you look at that edifice that's out there, you know, he had a lot to do with his influence on it. I never knew how that happened. Thank you guys.
That's great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Toodaloo.
Okay, we've thinned out the audience here.
Tiger.
All right, the next step is to consider, now this is the proposal prepared by Mr. Louis G. Bender proposal for conducting team roles and expectations workshops for the leadership teams of the city of Hillsdale. Mr. Mackey, you know.
Yep. All right, so this was, looking at, we're gonna be getting a number of new council members coming on here, after the election, at least a couple, 2 or 3. And looking at some of our meetings over the last year where they've taken a long time, in some cases have gotten a little out of control for whatever reason, not even pointing the finger there. But Mr. Bender has been in Hillsdale before, he's worked with us, and he actually facilitates training that a number of the department heads attend regarding public works. So I spoke to him about our specific situation, and he proposed this doing after the election, that where we could get, what it does is on Friday, the department heads get together and discuss issues and how we can better work together and maybe some of our concerns. And then later that evening on Friday, we meet with the council, talk about kind of changes, things that are going on. And then he takes that information from both those sessions, and then that evening is mayor and council and myself. The next morning is the mayor, council, and me, and we talk about that, and we talk plan for the future and how we work together professionally and in our roles to promote and advance the community.
Would those be closed meetings? Because there would be a training session?
They would not necessarily be closed meetings, they're workshops.
They're workshops.
People could come,
Okay.
but they typically don't.
That boring, so it's very boring.
No, I know what your concern is, but, because everyone would be there, I'd have to check with Tom to see if training sessions are closed or can be closed.
Well, it's just more open dialogue.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, and we would probably do it like at the library,
Yeah.
in the meeting room, or maybe even someplace else that's not the library. But he would take the information that he's gained from the department heads and that discussion, and then the Friday night council mayor discussion, and then Saturday kind of focus that and how we can improve things. And what I'm why I'm bringing this here is, one, to get your recommendation, because I think that's important to get O&G's recommendation to the full council. And with the encouragement to get everyone there. It's really no good if we just get some people.
Yeah, right, you need both teams.
It's kind of like sometimes the budget meetings. We do talk about details in the budgets at those meetings, or they can ask about the details. If you don't show up, you can't ask, unless, you ask during the meeting.
Also, a very detailed budget would be 1,000 pages long. You're on the finance committee, and look at all the items that are just twice a month on the finance
But yet
committee.
we had
There
one
would be no flexibility.
Council member
who
wants
wants to see everything and question everything.
And
Yeah.
That's right, it's okay for them to do that, but that's what these sessions are supposed to be for.
Right, well, the issue is you go to department heads and do that on his own, because this is a different, higher level meeting. I don't care if you spend, $1,000 on trash bags.
Well, the other thing is, it's inflexible. In other words, if you did a detailed budget and then passed it, every time we had some unexpected thing, we might have to go to the council, or at the very least, the finance committee.
Yeah.
And, that would be unwieldy.
Yeah.
So anyway, if this man can explain that, in part, just explain the budget process, I think it'd be useful, because when I first came on the council, I knew how my hometown ran, but I didn't know much about this town, how it ran. And it was 8 years ago, and it would be helpful to have a kind of orientation session for the new people. And it would be an advantage for them, and they kind of get the ground running, as the saying goes.
It's a must that should have been done 2 years ago.
Well,
But it didn't happen, and the person desperately needed to understand how things work.
I think we do this every 3 years would be good.
it would be.
And maybe even explain the different levels that these meetings do. I mean, what this group does, what does council do? I mean, it all feeds council, you still want council diving down in the nitty-gritty details of things. I mean,
And we've struggled with that a
Yeah.
little bit because committees.
committee makes a recommendation, they tear it apart.
And then it
Yeah.
ends up coming
Yeah,
2 or 3 meetings later.
yeah, that's true.
Inefficient and is kind of demoralizing for you guys.
See, but the difference is, this is a business, this is government, but we need to run it like a business, so it is more efficient.
Yes. I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, sounds as though there seems to be a consensus here for this. Do we make
I
a
don't
motion?
go through it, but yeah, I'll support
I
it.
make a motion to
You don't need a motion or anything, do we, or do we? To
Just,
recommend it?
go ahead. if
Yeah,
you
okay,
will.
okay,
I'll
so,
second it.
okay,
Yep.
okay, I hear a motion from Councilman Stuchel and a second from Councilman Sharp, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? Motion passes.
I will bring that up for the next council meeting.
Okay, and
I wish you well with this, guys, because I know what's coming.
Okay, so, let's see, well, there aren't any committee reports, I don't think. And, public comment, any public comment?
Just want to thank you guys for following the BPU recommendations on Dave's financial situation and review. I
Okay,
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So,
All right, he never jumped on that. Seconded by Councilman Stuchel, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Meeting adjourned. Very good.